Out of all the Corsair fans we had a look at so far, we haven't touched a single 140mm based fan yet, so let's change that. This is the Corsair iCUE Link RX120, the all-black, no-crap iCUE fan, but in big. It is very similar to the RX120, so for those who have already seen me babble for about 10 minutes about the details, feel free to jump to this timestamp. These exist in a single and a dual pack, and theoretically there also is an ARGB version of this, but they are not the same fans. The RX140's fan blade is made out of LCP, or liquid crystal polymer, a material much stronger than the usual stuff fans are made out of. Doing this allows the manufacturers to make the fan blade slightly bigger because the whole thing won't start to straighten out and at high speeds and then grind away at the fan frame. And apart from being really freaking strong, LCP is also really freaking colorful. Hence no ARGB let through, hence the ARGB versions are made slightly different because the fan blades need to be made out of a different material. A dual pack or starter kit of these RX140s comes with an iCUE link hub, one 600mm long connection cable and a few installation gimmicks, like these incredibly handy screws that, thanks to their enormous thread, can be screwed in a single hand movement. They are so freaking useful. To get the fans going, we need to connect the iCUE link hub to a 6-pin PCIe connector for power, as well as a 2.0 USB internal header to actually make the thing communicate with your PC. From there, you can use either one of the two connection ports on the iCUE link hub to connect the USB-like connection to one or more of the fans. From there you got two possibilities. If you want to chain them into a single block, you can use the included connector to forward the signal. On the side with the connector, we'll mount the connector that actually does something, and on the other side we'll use the passive one, which only adds some strength to the whole structure. And yes, everything is still magnetic and the connection is pretty strong. In case you wanted to mount the fans in separate blocks, you will need to get an additional cable, which you will need to buy separately. And this is kind of a bummer for me. For the 120s, there is a triple pack where you will get two cables. But for the 140s, there only are dual and single packs. And I do kind of believe that a dual pack should come with two cables instead of one. It's definitely less severe than having a triple pack with only a single cable. That's just stupid and an insult. But I do see how people might want to buy the dual pack of 140s and mount them as exhaust fans in their PC. Like one in the back and then one in the back top and one in the back to the two usual exhaust fans. And I think that's the standard procedure if anybody buys this, or the first one, so two cables will be better. And now let's go over some specs. This is an up to 1700 RPM quick spinning 140mm fan capable of pushing up to 95.7 CFM at up to 3.79 mm of H2O. Spec-wise, it's not the most insane fan out there, definitely not, but if you remember the smaller versions video, these RX fans are not particularly loud. We benchmark fans in two different ways. Once on top of our case simulator, a wooden box where we use two fans to recycle the air within and measure the results by looking at the CPU temperature underneath a passive Nokia P1. And for cases specifically, we benchmark both 140s and 120s on the same setup. And I do believe that this is absolutely fair, because depending on the fan we are using, we have a different sized hole. And let's be honest, that's exactly the choice somebody would make if he buys case fans. The average case supports both 120s and 140s in the front definitely, and nowadays even a lot of them come with 140s in the back. Hence, it's in my opinion important to also benchmark both of these form factors head to head. For radiators, we blow through a 10 FPI 60mm radiator and measure the performance by calculating the water temperature above ambient. And for rads, it's only 140mm in this case, because it's like a 140mm radiator, and 120s have their own radiator. For both of these tests, we first measure the max performance and then we slowly lower the fan speed whilst noting down the noise to create noise to performance curves. Allowing the RX140s to spin at their max 1700 RPM on our case simulator revealed something weird. Don't get me wrong, at 43.4 degrees C above ambient, these are not bad fans. They did outperform the quicker spinning Arctic P14s, but they are not outperforming the 120mm counterparts. And that's like the weird part, because spec-wise, according to Corsair, the RX140s should absolutely smash the RX120s ass in a case-type environment. But in our case, they just didn't. Of course, the 140s do push their air at a much lower, let's say, force. There is a bit over half of a millimeter of H2O static pressure difference between the two. And even if I tried to build the setup as like restriction-free, or as much as I could, to some degree this is still going to have an influence. Plus, and this is kind of important to note here, I have seen over and over again, even if you have like airflow focused fans, which are for cases, let's say, and you got one with like 10 CFM more and the other one with 10 CFM less, but it is spinning 200 RPM faster, the faster one will win. And I, for myself, believe that this may come down to air velocity, which is just never measured. It's not stated on the spec sheet, it's not stated anywhere. And maybe one day when we get a machine for that, I could test if that is the difference. But that's just my theory, and okay, I need to stop. I could go on for like an hour about my theories on fan performance differences. Anyway, it's weird, as in it is unexpected, but not necessarily bad. Upper range, but no chart topper. On the noise to performance side for cases, we got a few important comparisons, like the Nokia NF-A14 and Arctic P14. And compared to the P14, the RX140 is definitely behind, not by much, not by that much, but from start to finish. And compared to the NF-A14, once the RX is spinning at 90%, they are actually very much alike. And going down from there, the difference between the two is negligible at best. But there is another important comparison, and that is the RX120. And there, at top speed, the RX is actually slightly better, which is funny because both yell at almost identical noise levels. And once both spin slower, they align almost perfectly, including the NF-A14, and going down further from there, the RX140 falls very slightly behind. So overall, it's definitely a good option. It might be the worst choice out of the ones that we are comparing here, but the other contestants are also like the best in their class. Over to radiators. Here the RX140 actually performed like a champ, keeping the water at 9.1 degrees C above ambient. It is actually an amazing result. For a 1700 RPM fan to keep almost the same performance level as a 2400 RPM fan, that is not bad. And even compared to the P14 or NF-A12, this is not bad. The noise to performance ratio is a bit of a mix here. The RX140 definitely won against the NF-A14, no doubt there, but against the P14 ARGB, the Silent Wings Pro 140, not quite. Closer towards noise floor, but not quite as good. So where do we stand? Well, it's very complicated, and I'm not so sure what make of this fan, cause it's not a bad fan. As a case fan, it was okay at best, and for radiators it was quite good. But why didn't it outperform the RX120? It's just so weird to me why it didn't outperform the 120mm version, given that we have all of these way better specs. And it's not just specs, I have also seen the PQ graphs created for or by Corsair. Like, these should have been better. But it wouldn't be the first time that a technically worse fan beats a better one because of the speed alone. I have already seen that. So as a whole, it's an okay fan, but for myself, I would probably stick to the 120mm version, for cases at least. That one seems to be just the better choice. For res, obviously that doesn't work, but here the RX140 was a pretty solid contestant. Not the best one out there, but still pretty solid. And what about the price? Well, they are too expensive. For a twin pack, it will come down to $40 per fan, and that's just too much. I get the whole iCUE Link hub thing, and yes, the USB-C-like connector is really cool, but the thing is, if you get the 120s, you're looking at $30 a fan. And I just don't see how going from 120s to 140s can be explained or can explain a 10 USD upprice. Not even talking about performance, that's just a whole other topic. Just like It's the same fan, just a bit bigger and for a 10 USD up price. Yeah, now that needs to be like way lower. So no, if you are into the whole Corsair iCUE thing and you are looking for the best one, so far the RX120 is still the best option. And the RX140, I mean for radiators sure, but not for cases. But okay, this should be all for the RX140, and at this point a huge thank you to Corsair for sending them over. Oh, on a side note, we have a Discord server, so if you wanna join, the link is down below. And we got channel membership, so if you are planning to sell your soul for an RG poop emoji, that's one way to go. But if not, I'm also releasing the content to all members 2 or 3 weeks in advance. Except for the NDA stuff, because, you know, I don't want to get sued. Additionally, you can rest assured that the income will not only keep the channel afloat, but will also serve to, no joke, invest in a halfway professional CFM meter and like velocity meter, whatever they are called. I think it's time we measure the scientific side of fans ourselves and in-house. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to continue, have a look at our take on the RS120 Max. And no, Max doesn't stand for max performance. It stands for, I don't even know, but they are like really freaking quiet. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.